Hey there, Dr. JP Gidry here. I want to talk a little bit today about core training for golf and really the emphasis that I put on core training, because I see a lot of kind of BS stuff out there and a lot of stuff that's really just fluff, but I don't think it's really truly beneficial for most golfers when it comes to performance training. I don't think golfers load their core heavy enough, and I think they do a lot of things that aren't really, as far as worth the time invested in them, giving a bunch of benefit. So I'm going to talk about just the things that I kind of utilize with golfers and my thoughts on core training for golfers. So I don't do a lot of floor work with golfers. Every now and then I'll do some RKC planks or side planks, and the difference with those is we're going high intensity, so you're trying to maximally contract every muscle in your body essentially, and you shouldn't be able to hold those more than about 15-20 seconds. So I think planks are a bit of a bastardized exercise. People just tend to hold them as long as possible, and I just don't think that's really beneficial. We're trying to create the ability to create control and resist forces through our core and through our body from the standpoint of the golf swing, and our training should reflect that. So number one is heavy lifting. So the core is still going to be highly worked with heavy deadlifts, heavy squats, overhead pressing, bent over rows, things like that, where we're standing, we're moving a weight. So I don't want to neglect the fact that the core is going to be trained in all of those exercises. So that's still number one for me, is we're moving a bunch of weight in those heavy movement patterns, especially when we're standing, we're planning on the ground. Most of my core training is done in the standing position when it comes to golfers. And again, we're focusing on a lot of anti-movement based stuff, anti-rotation, anti-flexion extension, anti-side bending, and then creating and controlling rotational movements. So first thing I love, probably my favorite, is a Pow-Off Press. The number one issue I see with most golfers is they don't load them heavy enough. So for bands, I've got these double banded, and this should feel pretty intense. So for your Pow-Off Press, you're going to start at your chest, you're going to press straight out, and we're going to hold for a count of somewhere, let's say, between 6 and 10 seconds. I'm going to come in. So we're going to look at this from the side here. You're breathing here. We're making sure we kind of engage as we press out. So this should be pretty intense. You should really feel like 6 to 10 seconds is about as hard as you can hold, and you're fighting with everything to do that. Obviously, you can do the same thing with a cable machine, but make sure you're loading it heavy. You can do some different variations, so we can go some lifts, we can change the stance, but the Pow-Off Press is generally one of my staples when it comes to core training for golf. The next one is going to be chops. So again, same thing, we can do bands, we can do cable. I'm going to demonstrate here. So we can do a split stand chop. Again, we're going to load it heavy, add a little hold, back up. So we're kind of working around a fixed core position here. Again, these are pretty heavy, maximal hold for about 6 to 10 seconds. You can also pull them to the side here. Same principle. So with these, I might do 3 to 5 reps, really max hold, working up usually around 6 to 10 seconds with that. We're going really, really heavy with both of those. Next I like to do is carries and holds. So one of my favorites is a Suitcase Deadlift. So I'll do these sometimes modified single leg, heavy kettlebell, heavy dumbbell. You can load it up with a barbell, or if you have a carry bar, we're going to hold these. So go into a Suitcase Deadlift. We can obviously do just a suitcase hold. We can do a march. You can walk. Again, you can load these heavy with double arm. You can do a trap bar carry. Those are kind of my favorites I like to use. I focus more on single arm carries, but I will do some double arm, heavy double arm, some heavy trap bar carries where we're walking for a distance or time, holding against that weight. So again, forcing that core to create a lot of tension, just like we need to do in the golf swing, just like we need to do in our heavy lifts to improve our ability to do this. Other things I like to do are some deceleration work. So I will do some decel catches. Again, we load these pretty heavy, probably a little too heavy. So we're going to come here, bring it out, catch, out, catch, out, catch. So we're trying to stop that in front of our body. I will do some cable rotations. Again, we're driving through the leg to pull. So these are more heavy. We're rotating more, trying to feel everything pull against that weight. Again, trying to create some of that lower separation, upper lower separation. Sequencing just like we would somewhat in the golf swing, but going heavy, feeling all this contract. Obviously we can load those lighter and work more on speed, especially with bands, but today we're going to focus more on the heavy loading, things like that. I'll do some eccentric controls with this, so what I call a banded or a cable pot stir, where we press out, slowly controlling that weight rotationally, or we can just do it rotate out, slow for a count of 5 to 6, coming back, working more on that eccentric control, you know, somewhat deceleration, but just kind of working those core muscles in all three phases, isometrically, concentrically, eccentrically. I do kind of lump med ball throws in there, so we're doing even just kind of tall kneeling med ball throws, we're just using the trunk of the upper body. But throws and slams, we're still engaging the core. That's more kind of a power move, if you will, through the core. But I will kind of lump those in as core exercises, just like we would call a squat or a deadlift or a bent over row, you know, somewhat of a core exercise as well. It's still going to challenge and load that core to do its job. You know, around here we just kind of accessorize with some of these lifts to make sure that core and those muscles of the trunk really can create that tension, can resist the forces, again, create the forces, can control the forces, you know, in all those planes. So for me, that's kind of the basis of how I work with my clients when it comes to, you know, core training for golf. So we go heavy Pow-Off presses, heavy chops, some heavy carries. We'll do some deceleration work, some eccentric control work. I'll do some heavy isometrics. So here where I've got basically a band, I'll do some testing. So I got a way to test it here, but you can just do it to a band. Obviously this has no give in it. This is just kind of like a toe strap. And then we're going to pull as hard as we can, again, for amount of time. Again, the beauty of this scale is it'll allow us to kind of maybe track, test, track, gives us something again to pull against. So trying to shoot for a number, we can test both sides, things like that. So I'll use that for testing and training as well. But really maximal isometrics with that type of stuff. So if you have any questions, hope this helps. You know, I think a lot of time is wasted on core exercises. You know, look, if you're really trying to get shredded and get your six pack and your definition, you know, doing things like crunches and things on the floor are great. You know, for my juniors, I may start them with some dead bugs and bear crawls and things like that. But I think for most of your mature golfers, getting them standing and getting them loaded heavy, just like we want to do with all the rest of our lifts, is going to be the biggest benefit. You know, especially for those guys that are limited on time, you know, get in the gym, get out, get the most benefit for the least amount of time. So if you have any questions, reach out to me, johnpaul@guidrypt.com, and hope this helps.